So I love custom bikes as much as the next person, but for the last couple days I've actually been riding the local bike share here in Portland. So in this video I'm going to review the Portland bike share bike. I'll let you know what I like about it and dislike about it in this video. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, if you're into the non-competitive side of cycling, gravel exploring, touring, bike commuting, the supple life, you have found your people, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy content like this and want to help support it, consider buying a patch or joining us on Patreon and PayPal. So before I review the bike, I want to give you my 3 reasons why I love using bike share here in Portland. The first one is that it's really convenient. They use a dockless social bike system. So what that means is basically you can pick up bikes from stations and drop them off at stations, but you can also pick them up in other random places or leave them in a place that's close to your final destination but might not have a actual docking station. Another reason I love bike share here in Portland is you can ride it into downtown and not worry about having your own personal bike stolen or parts of your personal bike stolen. True story, a couple years ago when we lived here, Laura and I went down to the library, and when we came out, someone had stolen her pedals. And I think that is the last time we actually rode our bikes into downtown. If we were pedaling in and we're gonna leave the bikes unattended for more than a couple of minutes, we would just take bike share. And the third reason, now that we don't actually live here, as a visitor, as a tourist, it's a great way to get around the city. Unlike, say, a bike rental where you have to go to a specific bike shop, pick up the bike and drop it off there, you can kind of just grab an orange bike at will. And also the prices are fairly reasonable. I put in about $20 of credit, and I've been making mostly 2 to 3 mile trips, and I think I've used about 2/3 of that in the last 4 days. All right, so those are my reasons why I like using bike share. Let's review the bike. So the frame is a brightly colored orange. I generally like the aesthetics of the Biketown bike. I feel like it's a nice inviting color and also has an added benefit of being high vis. I would describe the aesthetic as Dutch meets kind of public transportation. The bike is certainly hefty and it does feel like a piece of public infrastructure. Frame and fork are steel, not labeled on the bike, so don't know if it's 4130 or any fancy tubing. The bike has a integrated handlebar and a front basket. So yes, you can get your basket life on with the Portland bike share bike. And the bars themselves have a pretty generous rear sweep, so it puts you up in a upright position. The gearing system is 8-speed internal and it utilizes a grip shift system. One big advantage of this is that when you're at a light, if you stopped at a high gear, you can quickly turn it into a easier gear without having to pedal. So definitely perfect for the urban commuter. The drivetrain is a shaft driven drivetrain, so a lot less maintenance than a chain. You may lose a couple watts if that's important to you on your daily commute. And the rear of the bike does have a rear rack sort of thing, but its main purpose is to house the electronics of the bike. This is where you enter your code to unlock and lock the bike. And generally the responsiveness of the touchpad is okay. I found varying degrees of responsiveness with bikes. Some you really have to mash the buttons down to put in your account number, others are a lot more responsive. Unfortunately, the rear rack does not take standard panniers, so you are limited to either having a backpack or putting things in the integrated basket. The wheels are, I believe, 700C. They are running some really herky Kenda tires with a reflective stripe. Tires seem like they're about 35 or 38 millimeter and generally not very supple. I didn't have a scale with me to weigh the bike, but my guess would be it's probably north of 40 pounds or around there. So a lightweight bike it is not. So enough of the specs. How does the bike ride? Interestingly, for a bike that does weigh so much, the steering is surprisingly light. I think they accomplished this with a fairly steep head tube angle. The front end actually kind of reminds me of a Surly Pack Rat. So despite the weight and despite the integrated steel basket, the front end steering is pretty nimble. This makes it easy to avoid potholes, to make a quick turn if you have to. Generally speaking, the handling is actually surprisingly good. The handlebars do place you in a really upright position, and if you're a shorter person, your arms are kind of up here. I have found that there is, at least for me, a usable secondary position, and that is with my forearms draped over the handlebars and my hands kind of resting near the basket. You can tuck in a little bit. I feel feel like that position also allows you to use larger muscles in your legs and just pedal a little bit faster if you need to get somewhere going on the bike share. In terms of rear end handling, it is not tucked. It is very untucked. It's definitely on the longer end of the chainstay spectrum, but this generally adds to the stability of the bike, so it makes it fairly user-friendly if you're a novice rider. And the bike is actually a pretty good descender. It's got a lot of weight behind it, so it does pick up speed fairly quickly. The brakes use Tektro levers and they are drum brake. Fairly effective, not as good as some, let's say disc brake. I think where the bike suffers most is definitely going on the uphill, a combination of just the general weight of the bike, but also the more upright position, which doesn't, I think, allow you to more efficiently use all your leg muscles. So what do I like and dislike about the Biketown bikes? First big like is there's a lot of utility. It does have a basket, however, unfortunately, no braze-ons for anything cages or low rider rack. So no Utilifork on the bike share bike. It also has fenders and some lighting. The lighting isn't the best, but the fenders definitely keep you dry in this wet Portland weather, so much appreciated. Third big like is actually the handling. I mean, it handles okay for what it is. I've ridden other bike share bikes where the wheel is really heavy and floppy and has a life of its own, but on the Portland one, it maintains a fairly light steering feel. So that's it for the likes. What are the dislikes? I think the biggest dislike, the elephant in the room, so to speak, is the weight. The bike is heavy. I think if they could upgrade the tube set to maybe some Columbus Zona or just lighter tubing all around, maybe some 747, that would add to the liveliness and suppleness of the bike. Another dislike is the gearing. Although the 8-speed is generally okay, given the weight of the bike, again, I would have preferred something like a subcompact double would be awesome. That's a joke, by the way. But seriously, like another dislike, and a real dislike, having ridden it the last couple days when it was rainy, is actually the saddle. There is a channel there that does collect a lot of water and you have to really work to wipe it off. So I don't know if they could have a different saddle design where it doesn't have that channel or some drainage holes or something. But if you ride the bike in wet Portland weather, you're gonna get some wet butt. Overall, of all the bike share bikes I've ridden in the last couple years, Biketown bike definitely seems the most fun to ride. Yes, it's heavy, it's clunky, it's very utilitarian, but it does provide some joy in biking around the city. So let me know what you guys think of bike share bikes. Have you guys ridden the Portland ones? What are your thoughts? Leave those in the comments below, and as always, keep the supple side down.